I'm Michelle Valiukenas, and I'm the founder and executive director of the Colette Louise Tisdahl Foundation.
What inspired you to create the foundation?
Losing my daughter. We lost our daughter after years of infertility, previous loss of a miscarriage, and then when I was 21 weeks pregnant with her, I was hospitalized with preeclampsia, told I would be there until I delivered, and then had her at 24 weeks and 5 days. She spent her very short life of 9 days in the NICU before we lost her. And really the inspiration was throughout all of this was recognizing that I had such access and such ability to really just focus on that and not have to worry about financial piece. And I knew that that access was not available to most people. And I really wanted to try to get at removing barriers to improve that access for all parents.
Yeah, what are some of the things you work on?
Yeah. So we are most known for, and the bulk of our work is a financial assistance program for families who are dealing with, we sort of see it as three stages of just pregnancy and postpartum, but also the three stages of Colette's life. So a high-risk pregnancy or a pregnancy that develops complications, a NICU stay or loss. And we have helped, families with financial things. So it's everything from the ability to get to the hospital or get to doctor's appointments, to utilities, so things stay on, to rent, and a variety of different things in between. And so to date, we're a little over 5 years in existence, and we have helped over 2,100 families in all 50 states. And we've given away over $1.4 million in financial help. So it's been really incredible. And then I also do a lot of just speaking out and telling our story and sharing things, because I think these are in topics that people don't like to talk about. So infertility, baby loss, parenting after loss, all of that. So I do a lot of that. And then I do a lot of education of providers on, how to best work with these communities, how simple changes to words can make such a huge impact on relationships with parents who have gone through some sort of crisis or tragedy, or maybe going through it still. And so that's the other thing that I think we do a lot of work with.
How does the organization help your own healing process?
It helps a ton. I always say that this is the way that I am parenting Colette, my daughter. And so it looks very different than parenting my son, who is a very active toddler. But it is my way of parenting her. So I get to say Colette's name, every single day. And that is something that a lot of lost parents feel like they lose the opportunity to really say their child's name, especially as time goes on from the loss. And so it's been, it'll be 6 years in May. And this is the time when a lot of lost parents say that they feel like they can't really say their child's name, that people get uncomfortable when they do this because it's now been, it's been long enough, quote unquote, or, it's time to move on. And so I really think that it's very helpful that I get to say her name every day, that I get to feel like nobody will forget her, because we're so present, and the families that we've helped know something about it. The providers that we work with know Colette's name. I work with a lot of social workers from hospitals, and I went to one of their conferences 2 years ago, and what's so beautiful was that people were asking me about how's Colette and how's Elliot, my son, very much in the same questions, right? The way that they would have if both of my children were living. And so that is huge, to be in a room, in a space where people who never have met, who never met my daughter, and very few of whom who have met my son, like just held it as those were my two kids. And that's really, it's a beautiful and it's a very wonderful healing thing. At the same time, it's also can be triggering. I'm reading stories of families who are going through very similar circumstances to what we went through. And sometimes that can be hard, especially, when it's situations of being born at the same gestational age as Colette was born. And they survive and, are going home or, have just survived longer than we had Colette for, those can be tough. And so it's a balance of all of this, figuring those two things out.
Yeah, how important is it just to have an emotional support system when going through something like this?
It's vital. I mean, it is so vital. I tell everybody who has lost, like, get into individual therapy if you're not already. If you have a partner, get into couples therapy, even if it's just a few sessions, because, each of us grieves and handles things differently. And so when you're doing this with another parent who's going to inevitably be grieving differently, there can be conflicts and there can be a lot of opportunities to it. I understand now, right? My husband and I have survived all of this, but I understand when I've heard stories of couples who have gone through this and then divorce or separate. I can understand it because it's a very big traumatic experience to happen, and it really changes people. And I think if you're not working on changing and morphing together, I think that can be very, very isolating and can lead to problems. And then the other thing I would say is, find fellow lost parents. There's just, being able to be, and I'm just thinking just this week, I had an in-person support group meeting. These are good friends of mine now. And just being able to say things that you wouldn't say to most people, of like your fears of, losing another child, of, trying to figure out all of this, is just really nice to have. It's also really nice to have a community that remembers my child just as I remember their children. And like, I always remember we, in COVID, we finally were able to come together in an in-person. We've been doing virtual meetings, and we did one outside and social distance and did all of the stuff. And as I was getting my son ready for bed, I was talking to him, and he was probably a year old. And I was saying, oh, I'm going to go see, this person. And what I found myself was, as I was just talking to him and saying, oh, they're so-and-so's mom, is I could remember their angel babies, their babies who had died, and their living children. I was having difficulty remembering names. And to me, that really spoke a lot of, just the difference it is to be among lost parents when the rest of the world sort of forgets your babies who have died and remembers your living children. I was finding actually the opposite. And I think that's really important and really genuine. And that somebody just understands what you're feeling and you're thinking as you're thinking it. I think it's really important.
What do you do to help your own mental health?
I follow my exact recommendation. So I do individual therapy. My husband and I go to couples counseling. I have a support network. I take, I take breaks when I feel like I can, or just need to. I blog a lot about the journey of loss and parenting after loss. And I think that for me personally has always been that writing has always been super healing for it. And so I think that that's an important aspect too, that really, is a twofold thing, right? Other people are reading it and feeling some relation to it and feeling some understanding with that. And also at the same time, I'm having some healing of just writing this and getting this out there and feeling like it's making a difference and an impact.
What are some of the things you've learned from your husband?
He is definitely the way more laid back one. And we found that actually in parenting our son after loss, we have kind of reverse positions. I have become a very much more laid back person. And I think largely because I felt like I had followed rules my whole life and still this had happened. And so, screw it. Why are we following any sort of rules? And so I think that was a lot learned from him. And then my experience was just to take a deep breath and reevaluate. I have really just learned just how powerful love can be, and that I think we have a sign in our room that says the perfect marriage is just two imperfect people who refuse to give up on each other. And I think that that's really true. And I think he has taught me that in a way that I had never known. Is just it is showing up, it is being present, is um, choosing to remain committed to the relationship every day, and putting in the work, and having the bad days and having the fights, and then rectifying things and adjusting things. And I think that's something he's really taught me. And he's just like a real sweetheart. I mean, I still makes me like almost tear up when on Colette's first birthday we did so at the cemetery where she's buried amongst children. And there is an area of the cemetery that is not often visited or decorated, and it's babies who have been found or abandoned, who have died. And there is an organization and a woman who do a funeral for them, and provide them and bury them. But because they don't have direct parents or relatives, it's often the area that doesn't have a lot of decor on those graves. And whereas everything else, right, it's a children's area, so there's a lot of toys and bright colors, and then there's this one section that's very gray. And so for her first birthday, one of the ways that we commemorated her was that we used daisies to represent her. And so we bought daisies in a variety of different colors, and then we went and left a flower on each of their graves, as a very remembrance of her, and just of life, and of these other incredible babies who don't have the family that we have, and other babies have. And one of the things that I thought was so beautiful that I heard him doing was that he was going to each grave and he was reading the names, and he was saying, Joseph, this is a gift from your friend Colette. And he was really just very intentionally doing that just to himself. And I think that was a level of just, compassion, and really taking these kids' lives and these babies' lives and putting meaning into them, in a way that I hadn't thought of. And it was so beautiful to see as he did it. And I was doing my session. It was just really beautiful. And so I think that that's another thing that he's taught me, is just really appreciating those beautiful moments.
What would you say to any family going through a similar situation?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, I think it's really important to grieve for the way you need to, for as long as you need to. One of the best things that my brother-in-law said to me when I said something, he said, whatever you're feeling, you are allowed to feel for as long as you need. And that was something that really carried me through. And so I would say that to any family. I would say, find your support network. I think one of the things that I have experienced myself personally, but also heard from so many other lost families, is there are just people in your life who cannot handle it. And so there are people who will become minor characters in your, in the play of your life. And people who just you're going to have to remove because they just don't want to talk about it. And that hurts. And that's a secondary loss. But at the same time, there are friends who will come forward and step up in ways that you had never imagined. And you also, if you allow yourself the opportunity, can meet other lost parents that will become very close friends, because of this shared experience. And, I think that that's also really beautiful. Grief doesn't end. Like, I think we have this misconception that, there's a time limit to grief, right? You go through these stages and then grief just goes away. And the thing is, it doesn't. And especially losing a child, right? That's against all of our nature, right? We're not supposed to do that. And so, it's very easy to be in these moments and think, oh, I have to get over this. And it's not getting over it. It's moving forward. It's moving, it's not moving on, it's moving forward. It's adapting to a new world and a new normal. And you're not the same after doing that, because who should be the same? Nobody should be the same after that. And that's okay. And as you develop that and you become that person, other people may feel like you don't fit into their world anymore. And you may feel like other people don't fit into your world anymore. And as sad as that is, as terrible as that is just going to be a fact of life, of growth that is not simultaneous with others.
Where do you want to see your mission in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, so I really would love to be able to help even more families. So we've helped 2,100 families to date. I would like to see that number tripled, quadrupled, because the need is really out there. That is something that is, you know, I am I didn't think I would ever be surprised by how much the need is, and I am. A lot of families are really struggling. The average American only is $400 crisis away from financial chaos and potential poverty. And $400 in any of these situations is not much. And that really can decimate that. So I think really trying to help more families to get the access that they need and that they deserve is really important. So I would really like to increase that knowledge and continue to increase the discussions about this. We're at a point in our world where there's a lot of rights associated with pregnancy and conception and all of that are under attack. And I think we need to continue to be loud. I don't think that, um, you know, being loud and being open about all of the stuff that has been so stigmatized for so long, I think will go far to combating some of the attacks on it, and getting us back to a place where our rights are being protected.
How can people reach out and learn more?
Yeah. So our website is ColetteLouise.com. Colette is one L, two T's, Louise.com. And then we are on all Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. And happy to answer anything. If you drop a line in the contact form and want to talk further, I'm happy to talk and set something up. And yeah,